Welcome to Mr. Penguin's Recaps. Today I'll be explaining a movie titled The Physician, released in 2013. The year is 1020. Education is not widespread and medicine is a rare commodity. There is no significant advancement in medicine and many ailments are believed to be incurable. The movie begins with a setting in the medieval age. Men and boys are working in a quarry site. Then we see a little boy, named Rob, holding a loaf of bread as he walks toward a crowd of people and joins them as they listen to a man called Barber telling them funny stories. Later, Barber assures the crowd that he has the cure for all their ailments. Rob's attention is diverted when another boy snatches his only loaf of bread and runs away. Later that night, Rob, his siblings, Anne and Samuel, and their mother prepare to eat bread for dinner. After the prayer, Rob notices the painful reflex on his mother's face. He asks if she's okay, and she replies Rob that it's nothing. Moments later, while the family sleeps, Rob's mom wriggled in pain, thereby waking the children. Rob quickly runs to the barber's wagon to ask for his help. Barber reluctantly follows Rob to help his mom. When they arrive at their house, they meet the priest and other members of the church. The priest informs them Rob's mother has side sickness, which is incurable, and any attempt to heal her would be considered witchcraft. In the next scene, the three children are mourning as they watch their mother's lifeless body. In the morning, Samuel and Anne are given out to people who will take custody of them, leaving Rob to fend for himself. Rob quickly runs to Barber to take him. Barber disagrees and leaves, but Rob secretly follows him. When Barber discovers that Rob has secretly followed him, he has no choice but to accept him. Years later, Rob is now a young man and an old barber's apprentice. Rob and Barber move from village to village to deliver their supposed medical treatment. Barber is addressing a crowd in a small village, but his sweet words are interrupted by the church priests who yell that Barber is practicing witchcraft, so he should stop. In the next scene, Rob asks Barber if he had ever wondered what was inside the human dead body. Barber seems furious with him and warns him not to bring up such a topic again. The scene that follows shows Barber trying to remove the tooth of an old man. Barber can barely see clearly as he removes the tooth. Instantly, Rob feels a sensation that indicates the old man is going to die. It was the same sensation he felt before his mother died. Later that night, Rob informs Barber of his sensation, but Barber disregards him. On their way back, the old man is dead and his relatives attack Barber and Rob. Old Barber is severely injured and can't keep up with his medical work, so he reluctantly agrees to allow Rob to take over. They move to another village and Rob performs his first amputation successfully and goes on to perform several surgeries. One night at the pub, the old barber declares that Rob is no longer an apprentice and blesses him to be a barber. Due to the old barber's sight problem, one of the ladies advises Rob to take the old barber to the Jews. According to her, the Jews can heal the blind, but Rob replied by saying no one can heal the blind. Later, Rob and the old barber visit the Jewish surgeons, and the old barber's blindness is cured. Moments later, Rob asks the Jewish physician where he learned his work. The Jewish physician told Rob that he learned from a great physician called Ibn Sina that resided in Isfahan. He then showed Rob how to get there. Rob seemed to be very interested in learning from Ibn Sina. Rob informs the old barber that he would like to go to Isfahan to learn more. At first, the old barber laughed it off, but when he saw Rob's determination, he let him go. So Rob boarded a ship and began his journey to Isfahan. However, there is one problem. Rob is a Christian, and the Muslim regions on his road to Isfahan only allowed Jews and Muslims. So he had to circumcise himself in order to appear as a Jew. Now, Rob is only 2 months away from Isfahan. He journeys with other Muslims and Jews across the desert. Rob then falsifies his name as Jessie. The only lady traveling with the crew to Isfahan is Rebecca. Rob seems to be fond of Rebecca. They keep each other company as they journey. Soon they're hit by a sandstorm. Only Rob and one crew member survive the sandstorm. After trekking for a while, the other crew member dies, leaving only Rob to continue the journey. At last, with the last ounce of strength in him, Rob arrives in Isfahan. He is homeless and has nowhere to stay. The following day, Rob requested to see Ibn Sina, but he was thrown out since he had no money or qualifications. There he was on the road, unconscious. He woke up to a man that had treated his wounds. Apparently, the man was Ibn Sina, so Rob was accepted into Ibn Sina's temple. Later that day, another Ibn Sina's Jewish student named Madrin welcomed Rob to stay in their home since he appeared to be Jewish. Day by day, Rob keeps attending Ibn Sina's classes, and he keeps on acquiring knowledge and improving his medical skills. Rob also upholds his Jewish personality as he attends the Jewish prayers regularly in Isfahan. After one of the Jewish prayer sessions, Madrin introduces Rob to one of their Jewish leaders, Honorable Bar Kapara. Honorable Bar Kapara is happy to see Rob, so he introduces Rob to his future bride, who happens to be Rebecca, the lady Rob met on his journey to Isfahan. Honorable Bar Kapara also invites Rob and Madrin to his wedding. Rob is saddened by this situation, so he drinks wine to console himself. Minutes later, Rob goes to a brothel. As he touches the lady, he feels the death sensation, so he takes her to the Ibn Sina's temple. Rob informs Ibn Sina that the lady wouldn't survive the night. Rob soon discovers that the lady has been bitten by a scorpion. She is quickly treated and her life is saved. Meanwhile, the king of Isfahan summons Ibn Sina. Ibn Sina takes Rob with him to the palace. While treating the king, Ibn Sina advises the king to be peaceful with his enemies. But the king believes war is the only way to be a great king, so he sends a war message to the Seljuks, his enemies. In retaliation, the Seljuks send a diseased man into the city of Isfahan to spread the plague. Ibn Sina admonished the king to evacuate the city, but the king turned deaf ears to his advice. So Ibn Sina and his students prepare the temple to receive patients. Hours later, the plague has spread across the city and numerous patients are brought to the temple. Meanwhile, the king, executive members, and rich people of the city leave the city as the guards lock the city gate. While the city is in pandemonium, Rob breaks into the Bar Kapara's residence and finds Rebecca lying in a pool. She has been infected by the disease. Rob takes her to the temple and tries to calm her down. Rob is eager to find a cure to the disease, even if it means questioning great scientists and going against the rules. The death tolls in the city keep on increasing. After several readings and reasoning, Ron and Ibn Sina were able to find an effective way to reduce the severity of the disease. After several days, the plague is over and the people start returning to the city. When Rebecca was about to leave the temple, things got heated between her and Rob, so they share a romantic moment together. Afterward, the king commends Ibn Sina and his students for their hard work. One day at the temple, Rob gets to treat a dying man with side sickness. Before his death, the old man told Rob to leave his body to the vultures. Instead, Rob keeps the old man's body and dissects it, thereby going against their rules. With the man's body, Rob learned a great deal of anatomy. Meanwhile, there's an uprising among the mullahs. They believe the king's generosity towards other religions brought the plague upon them. So the mullah leaders connive with the Seljuks to wage war against the king and the Jews. In a new scene, Madrin examines Rebecca and finds out she's pregnant for Rob. In order to avoid the consequences, Rebecca must lie with the Bar Kapar that night. Meanwhile, some mullahs have discovered that Rob has dissected a body, so they arrest him. At the same time, some of the Jews have discovered that Rebecca committed adultery and she's been sentenced to death. Rob and Ibn Sina are then prosecuted by the Muslim court and both are sentenced to death. After this, Rob confesses that he's not a Jew. While in the prison, Rob gives a detailed description of all his findings to Ibn Sina. Afterward, the king summons the Muslim leader to ask him about his actions. Then the king orders the Muslim leader to release Ibn Sina from prison. Moments later, the king falls to the ground in pain. On the morning of the execution, Rob and Ibn Sina are rescued by the king's guards. The guards take them to the king's sick bed. The king informs them that he has side sickness and instructs Rob to cut him up to remove the affected part, since Rob had seen it before. Rob agrees to treat the king if the king helps him to save Rebecca from her prosecution. Now, war is looming. The Seljuks' army is outside the city gate. There's an uprising among the mullahs and the Jews are protecting themselves. Rob, along with Ibn Sina and Madrin, have cut the king open in order to remove the side sickness, and they do so successfully. Meanwhile, the mullahs have attacked Ibn Sina's temple and are killing the Jews. Moments after being treated, the king insists that he wants to be on the battleground. As a reward, the king provides Ibn Sina and Rob with a safe passage for the Jews. However, Ibn Sina decides not to leave the city because he believes he's too old to start afresh, so he takes a deadly potion. However, before Ibn Sina dies, he hands over his research book to Rob and pronounces him as an Hakim. Meanwhile, the king dies on the battleground and the city has been besieged. The final scene shows the old Barber trying to get patient, but he becomes frustrated when no one shows up. A young boy then informs him about Rob. The movie ends as the old Barber walks with the young boy. That's all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also, leave a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.